as you all have probably watched last year, we saw Biden sign into law the infrastructure bill. We also saw the push by progressives for the Build Back Better Act. Thank God for Senator Joe Manchin for blocking that horrendous bill. Unfortunately, because of the infrastructure bill that was signed into law, we will be seeing an increase in taxes. This is going to impact every single American, which this leads into my next question, starting with you, Darrell. Under the current administration, we spent nearly $6 trillion alone in 2021. Taxes are expected to increase, which will impact constituents in District 32. How would you cut wasteful spending that impacts Texas taxpayers?
Great question. You know, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. The federal government, as everybody in this room knows.
We can't hear.
Is that better?
No.
We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. Everybody in this room knows that federal spending is out of control. We need people with a backbone. We need fighters in Washington. We don't need people that just go along and go up there to make new friends. We need people that will fight for conservative values. And it starts with spending and reining in spending. But one thing we should do is look at zero-based budgeting so that every federal department starts from zero every year. Because right now, as you know, the budget starts at whatever it was last year, and then they add 2, 3, 4, 5% to it. If you implement zero-based budgeting, every government agency starts at zero, and then they have to justify their existence. They have to justify what they're doing, and then we can start looking at what programs, what entire departments can go away. Thank you.
It's a great question, and being the only candidate that was born and raised here in North Texas, you see kind of the economy change a little bit. You see that we've had a rise in inflation, but I want to look at it more of an approach of having a real conservative Republican. Take a look at it. Yeah, my opponent, Colin Allred, who passed it, sent a letter to the House and sent it to Nancy saying, I can't vote on this because it's going to cut funding to the VA. It's going to cut funding to some of our hospitals. He voted for it anyways. He voted for it against his constituency. From Dallas to Collin County to Denton County. We have to be able to call out our elected officials to make sure they're voting the right way. And I'm 33 years old. I don't care about anything other than constituency. I don't care if you got a private company and maybe you want a government contract, what I call a government handout, and that's what we've been doing for so long to get us where we're at. We need to get back to supporting the constituency. The establishment has reaped the rewards at the expense of the people, and that all ends starting right here and right now in Texas 32 by a born and bred native Texan.
Thank you.
So I worked for the federal government for almost 20 years, and I'll tell you something you may not know about the way that they spend money. So basically, whatever part of the government you're in, obviously in the military, you get a budget that lasts every year. So whatever you don't spend, you have to give back to the government. So all year long in the military, you're scrimping by, not spending anything. And then September 1st, you start buying plasma screen TVs, brand new computers, new Humvees, and everything you could possibly get. Because if you don't spend that money, you lose it the next year. We need to cut that type of program out, because it's not just the military does that. The VA does it, every type of federal agency. And we should call this program what it really was. Build bureaucracy better. This is not going to put anything, it's not going to build any new streets, it's not going to do anything to help the American people. What it's going to do is add more bureaucrats and take up more money, so they need even more money the following year. We need to cut all the fat, cut all the bureaucrats out, and get money back to the people of the state of Texas.
I think Darrell Day just did a tremendous job explaining baseline budgeting. I had that as one of my #1 bullet points, and I've taken that off, so great job. Our fiscal situation in the country is an absolute mess, right? And what we just heard earlier was about the critical infrastructure bill that passed, and Build Back Better. And how much of the infrastructure bill actually went to infrastructure? It's like 5 to 10%. We need to understand what those bills do and why they're being passed. They're being passed because they want to take resources from states around the country, disproportionately from red states, taking it to Washington, D.C. to fund the cruel D.C. ruling class. It has nothing to do with helping out middle-class guy down the street. We need to understand that. So what do we need to do? We need to pass a mandatory balanced budget every single year, just like we have in the States. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Again, it goes back to how much is enough government. You take, for instance, Department of Education. $76 billion goes to the department. Isn't our school run by local authorities? Even our school, it is us that decide what happens. Why do we have Department of Education? We don't have an American university, we don't have American high school, but this is what the government does. Again, we have to go into the budget and begin to say, nope, 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 nope. Every one of us does that in our home. Use your home situation as your budget. Honey, we can't go to this vacation this time. Let me watch it on Google. I see all the beaches. That's why. We have to make the sacrifice because money is never enough. As we keep, sorry, thank you, but you got the picture.
All right, so the next category is healthcare.
Yeah, you didn't
Oh,
let me
yes,
tell
that's
you.
right, yes, please answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fundamental thing. You know, everybody up here has their own idea of how to fix it. But I'm going to present a new way to look at it. The problem that I see is simple. You know, right now you hear the popular thing, believe in science, believe in science. Well, I believe in math. I'm a businessman. And math is pretty easy to understand. You have this much money, and that's all you have to spend. The problem is, we've got into the situation where we keep raising the budget ceiling, and guys that are in Washington care more about getting reelected and not shake it up too much than they care about actually being a manager, and that's what we need in Washington, are more managers, that we end up with this kind of amazing deficit that 30% of our budget goes to serve the interest on the deficit. Be nice to have that money back. It's like if you ever have a car payment, you pay your car off. The first month you don't make the payment, you go like, wow, I've got some extra money this month. The government could be the same way, but it's going to take discipline.
Thank you.